What up, TCK Potters? Welcome back to the program. I'm your host, Sky Guasco. This is episode 458 of the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast. Appreciate you tuning back in to the TCK Pod. Welcome into week 4, an exciting weekend of football in week 3. Tough loss for my Niners on Sunday Night Football, last minute to Aaron Rodgers. Tough loss to Bobby's Giants. Tough loss to Jordan's Eagles on Monday Night Football. Tough loss to Bucky and Levy's Buccaneers. 0 for 5 for all of our NFL teams, but I did go 7-1 in my 8 leagues. Cashed out a little bit in DFS, looking real good. So there's always plus and minus, right? Appreciate you hanging out with me. I'm going to bring you through the week 4 trade target. I got 1 player to trade for, 1 player to trade away. I've got a number of players on the hot seat. That's going to be our hot topic today, brought to you by Bomb Banana Hot Sauce. And then I have the week 4 waiver wires. I'm going to give you the Fantasy Pros consensus waiver wires and which players they have listed, right? They have they have all the way down to 51 players listed. I'm going to go through about 10 of them and tell you my favorite 10 and give you a couple others. I am rolling solo, if you haven't found out already here. Bobby's going to bring you another episode of his player trends. We split it up a little bit this week. I made it a separate episode, but if you haven't heard yet, some somber news. Mike Taglier of the Fantasy Pros passed away this last weekend. He had a few week battle with COVID-19, and unfortunately, he came up short in that battle after a number of weeks fighting. So Mike Taglier has passed away, unfortunately. If you've listened to any of my content over the years, you know that Mike was my number 1 inspiration in all of this fantasy football. Was lucky enough to have him on my show in June to celebrate our 400th episode. He was super hyped to come on the episode and just really, kind of gave me some praise, which I needed big time at the time. And I go into detail. I recorded about a 25-minute tribute to Mike, and it's a separate episode. If you haven't heard it yet, dial back 1 and you can listen to that. Unfortunately, again, Mike Taglier passes away over the weekend, leaves behind his wife, Tabby, and his 2 children. Does have a GoFundMe set up. Scrolling across the bottom, you can find the link. If you would like to contribute to that, please do. You go to GoFundMe.com and support the Taglier family. You can find the fantasy football community and his friends and family in his personal life raised over $368,000 over the weekend to help with his medical expenses and to help his family move forward. If you'd like to contribute to that, please do. The TCK Pod crew and the Fantasy Focus crew teams up on Sunday for our Sunday shows. And we contributed 100% of our proceeds from the Super Chat this last weekend to that as well. So I appreciate anybody contributing to that. And a lot of you made a Super Chat donation that had nothing to do with fantasy football. No question. You just put in a few dollars, whatever you could, to contribute to Mike and his family. So we appreciate that. If you'd like to continue to do that, please, again, go to GoFundMe.com and support the Taglier family. That's Tagliere, Taglier family, and you can contribute whatever donation you would like to privately there. All right, we are going to get into fantasy football, though. Mike would want us to do that. And again, if you'd like to hear my tribute to Mike, who I had on the show back in June for our 400th episode, biggest inspiration to me in fantasy football over the last 5 years, and just really a pillar in the community and an incredible human being, as you have seen across the fantasy community over the last weekend. Really tough loss for all of us, and incredible human being gone as well. So blessings out to the Taglier family. And Mike, we miss you, buddy. If you'd like to hear that, dial back another episode. But today we are going to talk about our week 4 waiver wire ads. Try to move on here. Mike would want us to continue on with fantasy football, and that's what we're going to do in his honor here. So dedication to Mike, and let's proceed. We do have a trade target that I'm going to get into. Again, we have some players on the hot seat, and I have your week 4 waiver wire pickups. Now, these are the players that I personally prefer. Of course, there's many, many, many waiver wire pickup options, and they're all dependent on your league, right? If you're in a super flex league, you're going to be looking for more quarterbacks. If you're in a single quarterback league, you're not looking for quarterbacks. And guys like Matt Ryan, Daniel Jones, um, I mean, Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, even still. These guys are available on your single quarterback waiver wires. I'm in a single quarterback league, where I have 2 top quarterbacks, so I'm not worried about it. But Matt Stafford was available this particular week, and because nobody wanted to play him going up against the Buccaneers, showed out for 4 touchdowns, right? So if you're in a single quarterback league, you're not looking for quarterbacks, but if you're in Superflex, you would be. PPR, you're looking for different players than you are in a standard league. So of course, redraft and dynasty as well. But for those of you looking for waiver wire pickups, I want to get those to you ASAP so you can get in your bids. And if you're working with Fab, feel free to jump in and let me know. If you're streaming live with me right now, we're on the Fantasy Focused Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter pages. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe on all those pages. We really appreciate it. Also, make sure to hit us up on YouTube if you're not already. Fantasy Focused on YouTube. And we go live every single Sunday. And you can find us there for our StartSit Show. That starts 3 hours before kickoff every single Sunday. That's 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Western Time. The TCK Pod Boys, Jordan, Bobby, and myself, we're all on the West Coast, and Bucky and Levy are on the East Coast. So we have everything going on for you. So make sure to check us out 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Time, every single Sunday morning for 3 hours streaming live StartSit Show on YouTube. And again, make sure to please subscribe. We appreciate it. Got some folks jumping in already. Want to give up to LeBron's brain. Yeah. Shouts out RIP tags. Appreciate that. Again, a lot of contributions this last weekend, and loves out to tags on our Sunday show. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Looking for a wide receiver. I want to trade Hawkinson and Boyd for Juju. Oh, excuse me. I want to trade Hawkinson and Boyd or Juju for it. Okay, so you're looking for a wide receiver to go get with Hawkinson and Boyd or Juju. Well, LeBron's, without knowing who your other tight end is, because I would not just give away Hawkinson, obviously, but I assume you either have Kittle, Andrews at least, or you just have Kelsey and Waller. Or maybe you're in a full flex league and you don't actually need a tight end. And then Boyd and Juju, PPR guys, but I get it, third options on their team. Somebody, and I'll get into my trade target. It's actually a wide receiver I'm looking to trade away. So this isn't a suggestion for you, but I would go look at Stephon Diggs. Tyreek Hill is going to be expensive, but if they need a tight end, this might be a nice package for them. But Tyreek Hill has been shut down 2 weeks in a row, which you're just not going to see. The defenses have been incredible. The Ravens and the Chargers have done very well boxing in Tyreek Hill. I don't expect that moving forward. So if you can get Tyreek Hill in the cheap, now's the time to do it. Nuke Hopkins might be a guy. Oh, you have Diggs. Okay, I see that full flex. Yeah, I get it. Nuke Hopkins might be another guy there as well. Mike Williams, I think you might be able to get for maybe just Boyd and Juju or just Hawkinson. So I wouldn't sell the farm for Mike Williams only because he has the injury concern. Obviously, you're going to have to pay up, but maybe somebody doesn't believe that Cooper Kupp is going to keep this up. I do. I had Cooper Kupp ahead of Robert Woods preseason. I do. I also think Calvin Ridley is eventually going to get it together here for this offense. He's getting the targets. He just hasn't scored. A.J. Brown is going to be out now probably a couple of weeks with an injury. I would look at Julio Jones as well. Again, I don't even think you need to do this entire package for Julio Jones, but that's another guy I would look at that people aren't necessarily convinced on right now. So those are some names I would go look at. Obviously, some guys more expensive than others. Keenan Allen is another one because the hype is on Mike Williams right now. Maybe you can go capitalize on the Keenan Allen, who's getting the same amount of work, just not scoring the touchdowns. A lot of times those even out. So those are some recommendations there for you, LeBron's. I'm going to get into my trade target now here. And let me jump into this. And again, if you're just tuning in, I am rolling solo today, so there is no co-host. If you're on the podcast side, you're like, "Where's Bobby at? Where's Jordan at? Where's somebody else?" It's just me solo today. Bobby's going to come at you with another episode of his player trends that we bring to you. We split it up this week because they did that tribute to Mike as well. So Bobby's going to come at you separately. But let me get into my players to trade for and player to trade away. If you're on the screen, you already see the answers here, but on the podcast, a player I'm looking to trade for right now is Saquon Barkley. Now, you may be thinking, how the hell am I going to get Saquon Barkley? Or you're thinking, why would I want Saquon Barkley? Right. That's exactly why I want to go get him right now. The idea of Saquon is something that I wasn't into, right? You heard me all off season. I was fading Saquon. He was my RB13 preseason, right? In rankings, everybody had him still up in the top 6, 7, 8. I had him at 13. He's currently PPR RB 22. So he still hasn't hit that, but he's trending up. And that's what I want. I want to buy a player low as they ascend, right? Buy low as they ascend, and I want to sell high as they decline. So Saquon Barkley, week 1 against the Denver Broncos, who have turned out in the last 3 weeks to be a great defense all around. We knew they were going to temper his load. They certainly did. 10 rushing attempts, just 26 yards, and he had 1 reception on 3 targets. No good. Next week at Washington. Also, they've been struggling a little bit more than I think we would want from them. But nonetheless, still a good defense at Washington, right? It's a shootout, 30-29. Washington gets that last-second field goal from Dustin Hopkins, as we saw. 13 attempts, 57 yards, 3 targets, 2 receptions. Ramps up a little bit more. Okay, week 3, though, right? That was a Thursday night. He had 10 days to get ready for Atlanta on Sunday at home. Week 3 on Sunday, Giants lose again. Younghoe Koo beats them on a field goal, right? But 16 attempts. So he's gone from 10 to 13 to 16, right? 51 yards, 3.2 yards per carry. Still don't love that, right? But he did score a touchdown finally. That helps in fantasy football. Now, here's the difference maker. Week 3, 7 targets. 7 targets. He had 3 in week 1 and 3 in week 2. 7 targets in week 3. 6 receptions, 43 yards. Didn't score through the air, but he scored on the ground. 21 and a half PPR fantasy points in week 3. 21 and a half. All right. Now, that's not Saquon Barkley from 2018, but that is going to be top 10 weekly, right? He's going to have top 5 upside if he scores another touchdown, or he can get that rushing up. But what I like to see here is that's 22 touches, 16 carries, 6 receptions, 22 touches for 94 yards. Solid. You want him over 100, I know, but it's Saquon. He's coming off the injury. Like, let's play it slow here. 94 yards, and he did have a touchdown. So if you run it out that way, right, 22 touches, 94 yards, and a touchdown, you'll take that all every week from your running back. That, I think, is going to start being the floor from Saquon. Now, again, I'm not going to be shy here because some of you are going to be like, dude, what the hell? You just told me not to draft him. You're right. I did. And I don't – I'm not saying I didn't, right? But the importance of fantasy football is changing your tone as the season goes along. There's some guys that I loved coming in who are not producing, and I have to move away from them. There's some guys that I didn't love, like Saquon Barkley, that I'm like, okay, now we're a month into the season. Now he's healthy. Okay, now I'm willing to get him on my squad. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I was telling you to do, right? Don't draft him high because you're going to burn a first-round draft pick or a top second-round draft pick. He's going to burn you for 3 weeks, and you're going to be 1-2, 0-3 because your top draft pick isn't performing. That's not what you want to do, right? You want to get another stud, win a couple of matches, and then go buy Saquon Barkley while he's on the cheap. Now that window is closing. If you don't get it this week, he could pull a Saquon and score 2 touchdowns or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's over. So the window is closing. But Saquon is somebody that I'm willing to go look out for an offer on, right? Go look at somebody that had a hot week, Najee Harris, 19 targets, right? Go see if somebody wants Najee Harris, right? Zeke Elliott even, Saquon Barkley. You make that trade, I think it'll benefit you in the long run. Now, do not expect big rushing performances because that offensive line is still horrible, but they're going to use them out of the backfield. 7 targets, 6 catches. I love that. and he's going to get 15 to 20 carries as well. And if they ever get to the red zone, it'll be Saquon. And Daniel Jones is playing quite well. Look at Saquon Barkley, trade for Saquon Barkley. Now, on the flip side, unfortunately, this is a guy that I loved coming in, and I'm trying to hold faith, but I'm having a very hard time. Allen Robinson, wide receiver for the Chicago Bears, is the player I'm looking to trade away. Came in, Allen Robinson was a top 10 wide receiver for me. He was consensus ECR, expert consensus ranking throughout the industry, top 10 wide receiver, especially in PPR leagues. Everybody was thinking, okay, Andy Dalton's going to be fine, right? Which he wasn't. They hyper-target him, over 150 targets 2 years in a row with the Bears and Matt Nagy. Okay, that's good. Never been a huge yardage guy, never been a huge touchdown guy, but we like volume in the third round, the fourth round in PPR leagues. Well, Andy Dalton was going to leave eventually, which we saw. And Justin Fields, first-round quarterback from Ohio State, a lot of hype. He's going to be the guy to come in. He's the one more accurate downfield. He's the guy that's going to be able to feed out Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney. He's the one that's going to keep this offense buzzing, right? He gets pressured. He's going to run for a first down. Boom, pick up another 4 downs. Let's, run and gun it, right? Yikes. Week 1 versus Cleveland did not look good. Myles Garrett had 4.5 sacks by himself. Justin Fields was sacked 8 times. Now, rookies get sacked. Peyton Manning was horrendous as a rookie. All right, we see it all the time. I'm not saying that Justin Fields is going to be a bust, but week 1 did not look good. And what's even worse is Matt Nagy come out after the game, right, and to save his own ass, basically said it's going to be Andy Dalton when he's healthy. Might even be Nick Foles. Let's not forget Nick Foles is on this team. Might even be Nick Foles. And Justin Fields is out there if we need him. That shows me no confidence in this coach. Matt Nagy, man, I had really high expectations for him coming out of that Andy Reid tree and blah, 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 Kansas City. I'm not impressed. I think Justin Fields is going to be great long-term. I think Allen Robinson is great by himself. I love Darnell Mooney as well. I love David Montgomery. This Bears team has a good offense. Cole Kmet as well. Matt Nagy's holding them back, and it's holding Allen Robinson back. His performances so far have been dreadful. Dreadful. Wide receiver 63 through 3 weeks. PPR wide receiver 63. Week 1 at the Rams, 11 targets. Love that, right? Love that. First Sunday night game of the year, we all saw it, 11 targets, some of them overthrown, whatever. It's Andy Dalton, 11 targets, 6 catches, 35 yards. 5.8 yards per reception. That's insane. It's like hard to do. Right? This is Juju numbers. Al Robinson is a move the sticks kind of guy. He's a touchdown upside guy, right? He's a 10 to 15, 20-yard performance play. 11 targets, 6 catches, 35 yards. Week 2 versus Cincinnati. Andy Dalton revenge game. 4 targets, 2 catches, 24 yards. He does catch a touchdown, right? He dropped another one, but he catches a touchdown, but 2 catches for 24 yards. Obviously, not going to get it done. Week 3, going up against Cleveland. Now we got Justin Fields. Andy Dalton gets hurt. We get Justin Fields coming in. Lots of hype. Let's see what we can do. 6 targets, 2 catches, 27 yards. No touchdown. Bears get blown out at Cleveland. Now, I've seen some silver lining going around that at least Allen Robinson was the primary target for Justin Fields' 20 attempts. But look, man, if he's throwing the ball 20 times, it doesn't matter who it is. You need to see 30, 35 pass attempts. I want 11 targets every game from Allen Robinson, which is what we had last year. And they were ugly targets, but you had targets. At this point, I would rather have 11 ugly targets and hope that he catches 6 of them a game and does something with them than have 4 targets, 6 targets, 2 catches in back-to-back weeks. Dreadful. I love Allen Robinson. Love him as a player. I love him long-term. He's a buy super duper cheap in Dynasty and just eat it if you can. If you can get him as your like a wide receiver 4 or 5 right now and you have the other depth elsewhere and you can just sit him until they figure it out, I would do that on the cheap. because I think eventually he's going to explode, but it's not happening now. And get out while it's on fire. Another guy, I'm trying to hold faith here because the offense is incredible. But the other guy I was going to put in this is Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp is the number one wide receiver in PPR fantasy. He's the number one player in PPR overall, including quarterbacks. Robert Woods is distant. He's in the 50s as well, 50s, 60s, depending on your format. Robert Woods and Allen Robinson were both my automatic round 3, round 4 PPR monsters, perfect wide receiver 3 with a big running back or whatever. If you got that pairing on your squad, you're tanking right now. So move on while you can. They're great players. I think they turn it around. That's what you can convince your trade mate for. Me right now, I'd rather see them exceed on someone else's team and know that, okay, they brought it back, than keep them and just bomb on my own squad. So I'm trading for Saquon Barkley, who I didn't like coming in, but now I do. And I'm trading away Allen Robinson, who I loved coming in, but I no longer do, unfortunately. So that is the trade targets segment here. Next one, getting into, I want to bring in our hot topic of the day, and that's going to be putting the players on the hot seat. This hot topic is brought to you by Bomb Banana Hot Sauce. Bomb Banana Hot Sauce, ladies and gentlemen, you go to seekthespice.com. Use the promo code TCK for 10% off of your order. That's banana-based hot sauce, not banana-flavored. Banana-based, absolutely delicious. This is 4 good friends out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Went to the University of Michigan. Shouts out to the Wolverines. Came up with something different, right? Started making hot sauce out of bananas. Absolutely dynamite. Seekthespice.com. Banana-based hot sauce, not banana-flavored. Use the promo code TCK for 10% off. Now we go to the hot topic here, and these are going to be players that are on the hot seat, right? Usually weekly and Bobby and I'll be back at it together next week. Usually I read off a number of players to Bobby, right? And I just say, hey man, this guy, Big Ben is someone I'm going to talk about. Big Ben on the hot seat, panic or patience? Are you panicking because he looks like shit and you're trying to get rid of him? Or are you patient because he looks like shit, but maybe he's turning it around. Maybe the situation is getting better, like Saquon Barkley, right? So panic or patience. These are players on the hot seat that I'm concerned about, and I'm either trying to trade for on the cheap or trade away before everything goes up in flames. So the hot topic brought to you by Bomb Banana Hot Sauce. Once again, seekthespice.com. On the hot seat, quarterbacks, Big Ben, Matt Ryan, Jalen Hurts. Big Ben, I'm absolutely panicking. I think I have him on, I do. I have him on one super flex team because you just need quarterbacks. I have not played him yet, though. He's my 3rd, 4th option when we get to bye weeks. He might be benched by the time we get to bye weeks. Looked absolutely horrendous on Sunday up against the Bengals, who he has owned for 20 years in that division. The Bengals, to their credit, playing very well, beat up on Big Ben, shut him down quickly. They were without Deontay Johnson. Najee Harris had 19 targets out of the backfield. That's the most by any running back since 2018 in Alvin Kamara. 2nd most all time to a running back. 19 targets. That's obviously not going to happen again, but what that tells me is they had no run game because they have no deep pass game. So they have to dunk everything out, right? Lost Juju early. Deontay Johnson was out. Chase Claypool's a deep threat, right? Ray-Bear McLeod was in there. He's a deep threat. So they're going to Najee Harris the whole game. It's not going to move the ball. I'm absolutely panicking about Big Ben. If you're in a single quarterback league, drop him. If you're in a streaming super flex situation, move off of him if you can, but no one's going to purchase, no one's going to buy him from you. So just stash him on your bench and hope it gets better. Matt Ryan, this one's tough. I'm panicking because it's so bad in Atlanta, but Arthur Smith, while it's not clicking in Atlanta yet, did go pretty well with Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee for a few years. Ryan Tannehill and Matt Ryan are similar-ish quarterbacks. Obviously, Ryan Tannehill has more mobility, but I think the Falcons have the talent to turn it around. Kyle Pitts will show up eventually. Calvin Ridley is that man. He can absolutely get it done if they give him more opportunities. They don't have much of a run game, right? and they're in a shootout every single game in the second half. So Matt Ryan is somebody that I'm dropping in single quarterback leagues, but I'm hanging on to in super flex leagues. I'm not fully panicking, but I'm also not patient. You get one or two more duds, just cut bait, right? Julio's not there anymore. Matt Ryan has never produced without Julio Jones. Next up, Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be fine. They had an ugly performance against the Cowboys. But if you watch that game, which I'm assuming most of you did on Monday Night Football, drops, penalties, holding, right? I counted like 5 first downs that the Eagles had via the pass. Jalen Hurts got out of the pocket, found an open guy, made a nice throw. The Eagles picked up a first down, and it was called back via holding 5 times at least. That's all that I remember. There's probably more of them. Offensive pass interference, illegal linemen downfield, illegal formations, too many men on the field. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. And Jalen Hurts, of course, suffers from that. Now, he has that rushing upside, right? I played him in a league. He still put up 24 fantasy points for me, and he had an absolutely horrendous game. So if his floor is 20 fantasy points, we know what his ceiling is. We saw it last year against the Cardinals, right? 40-plus fantasy points. I see that happening. There are more guys starting to show up. Greg Ward caught a touchdown. Quez Watkins looks excellent. We know about Devonta Smith. Zach Ertz looks good. Dallas Goedert dropped about 3 balls in this game. Kenny Gainwell looks good out of the backfield, right? There are options in this offense. They just got to get it to click. And Dallas's defense is the truth. Micah Parsons and Dan Quinn have really changed that around. So shouts out to the Cowboys, but I am patient with Jalen Hurts. If he's a quarterback you can go get in Superflex leagues, I would absolutely go do that right now. A couple of running backs here. Jonathan Taylor, Tyson Williams, Nick Chubb. Jonathan Taylor, I am panicking. 23 touches in week 1, 16 in week 2, 11 in week 3. My man is trending the wrong way, right? He is trending the wrong way. 23 touches week 1, 16 week 2, 11 in week 3. Nyheim Hines is getting work. He had a great day on Sunday, right? Marlon Mack still in the area. Carson Wentz looks terrible. I mean, he's hurt. Nothing he can do. But they're also trying to fire downfield. That defense isn't as good as we thought it was going to be, so it's not as run heavy. I'm worried about Jonathan Taylor. And look, to Mike Taglier's credit, I'm going to throw him a bone here. To Mike Taglier's credit, this summer, he came on my show in June, episode 400, and I asked him about a couple of players that he was totally out on, and he was totally in on. One of the players he was totally out on that the rest of consensus was in on was Jonathan Taylor. And at the time, I was like, dude, what are you talking about? It's a first-round running back. We saw him last year, end the year incredibly. He's like, yeah, but everybody's talking about David Montgomery's easy schedule, and that's why he ended up so well at the end of the year. Nobody's talking about Jonathan Taylor the same thing. He doesn't have that now. Quentin Nelson's been hurt. His starting quarterback's hurt, right? He's got Nyheim Hines. He's got Marlon Mack back, right? T.Y. Hilton's not even in yet. If he does come back, that's going to be another knock on him. Jonathan Taylor will have big games. He's going to have big runs. He's a guy that you should keep on your team if you're hurting at running back. But if you can move him right now, I would move off of Jonathan Taylor. I passed on him in a keeper league, and I ended up keeping Calvin Ridley. So I'm going to talk about him in a second. Hasn't been much better, but I passed on keeping Jonathan Taylor on Tags' request, and so far I'm happy about it. Tyson Williams, 5 carries. 5 carries. He was my start of the week at running back last week. He was most of the industry start of the week going up against Detroit, who got manhandled by the 49ers, manhandled by the Packers, nothing by the Ravens. Lamar Jackson gets his, but Tyson Williams did not. 5 carries. At Denver next week, I'm out. I'm not playing Tyson Williams next week at all. And if he doesn't produce again, I'm shipping him out absolutely. Nick Chubb, this one's tough. I put him in panic or patience because he hasn't exploded yet, and Kareem Hunt has. 22 carries last week. 22 carries. No touchdown. Now, Nick Chubb, we know we need that touchdown or 2. Now he's got 3 on the year because he doesn't catch many passes. I'm patient with Nick Chubb. He's Nick Chubb, right? That being said, Nick Chubb for Saquon Barkley. Ooh, straight up, I'd probably still lean Nick Chubb because I know the offense is there. I know the offensive line is there. I know Nick Chubb is there. I know the play calling's there. But in full PPR leagues, it's tough, man. It's tough. If we're going to get 7 targets from Saquon and 16 attempts is his floor, Saquon might be better in full PPR. Half or standard, I'm going to go with Chubb. But Chubb for Saquon is definitely a trade you can make right now. It might be worth it. Keep an eye on that. For most circumstances, though, I'm hanging on to Nick Chubb. Be patient. He just didn't get the touchdown this week. Calvin Ridley, Nuke Hopkins, and we already talked about Allen Robinson as my wide receivers that are on the hot seat. Calvin Ridley, 8 targets in week 1, 10 targets in week 2, 11 targets in week 3. I'm being patient with Calvin Ridley. I just talked about Matt Ryan. Very frustrating. I understand. Look, I've got him in multiple leagues. He was one of my guys this year. One of my bold predictions early this season was that he would be the number 1 wide receiver, so I drafted him all over the place. It's been very frustrating. You have to have 100 yards, right? He led the NFL in air yards last year with over 2,000. They're just not using him that way anymore. Now, that was a Dirk Cutter offense. This now is this is what the Titans used to run, right? Arthur Smith wants to run, and then play action. And then they get behind by so much because the defense is terrible that they just have to let it go and throw the whole second half. That's when Calvin Ridley gets his work. But he scored a lot of touchdowns in his first couple of years in the league. Played well without Julio, played well with Julio. Matt Ryan, he have a connection. They just need to open up this offense a little bit. So I'm hanging on to Calvin Ridley. Nuke Hopkins, all right, 8 targets, 4 targets, 6 targets. Don't like this at all. Calvin Ridley's targets are ascending. I like that, right? They're going up 8, 10, 11. Nuke Hopkins, this is a dude that should have 10 targets a week. He's got 8, 4, and 6. 8 for 83 in week 1, 4 for 54 in week 2, 6 for 21 last week. Now, he was a little bit beat up. It's still early. But, man, Kyler's Kyler, dude. Kyler's playing out of his mind, and Nuke Hopkins isn't. A.J. Green having big games. Rondale Moore is the new hotness, right? James Conner playing well in the red zone. Chase Edmonds catching balls out of the backfield. Christian Kirk catching balls, right? Multiple touchdowns. Kyler Murray running the ball himself. They just don't need DeAndre Hopkins to be the alpha, which is what he has been so good at over his years. All those years as a Texan and last year as a Cardinal. They don't need him to be that guy. For a guy like Nuke Hopkins and Allen Robinson, who rely on volume, that's a problem. I'm trying to move off of Nuke Hopkins if I can. If I can package Nuke Hopkins for somebody else, go for, like I mentioned a couple, early on in the episode here, for a Diggs, Tyreek, Justin Jefferson, Nuke for DK straight up. I would do that, right? I would maybe trade Nuke for like Julio and then a wide receiver 4 or running back 3 in place or something like that for depth. Try to make that trade. I would move Nuke if you can. Now, he's still a top-end wide receiver, so don't just give him away. But I would move him if you can. Be careful there with DeAndre Hopkins. Couple tight ends, and we'll move on here to the waivers. Kyle Pitts. See a theme here with the Atlanta offense? Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts. 8 targets in week 1, 6 targets in week 2, 3 targets in week 3. No touchdowns yet on his NFL career. Now, I'm patient because the talent's there. I also do not have him personally in 8 leagues. I do not have him in 1. I did not draft Kyle Pitts in any league. In dynasty leagues, if I had a top 3 pick, I drafted Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, or Jamar Chase over Kyle Pitts. I do not have him in 8 leagues. But if you do, I would hang on to him. What he can do with the ball in his hands is only something that very few athletes in the NFL can, especially at the tight end position. The touchdowns will come. The offense, I think, will get better as they gel. They're building off of a win now. They beat the Giants, so maybe it's a little momentum. I'm hanging on to Kyle Pitts. If you do get rid of him, get a Hawkinson, an Andrews, a Kittle back. Don't just give him away for Noah Fant or Robert Tonyan or Logan Thomas, okay? The upside is not there with those guys. It's there with Pitts. Be patient. Then New England tight ends. This is just kind of a streaming situation, but we had a lot of high hopes because of this whole Gronkowski-Hernandez things from 2011. Each tight end had 6 targets last week, right? But they seem to switch every week on who's the guy. Hunter Henry is the guy, then it's Jonnu Smith, and it's Jonnu Smith, and it's Hunter Henry, then it's neither of them, then it's both of them. I'm not excited about this offense in general. Jacoby Myers is the guy I'm going to talk about in 2 seconds about the waiver wires. He's the guy I want. I don't want the running backs. With my boy James White out, I don't want the running backs. I don't want the pass catchers. I don't want Mac Jones. Maybe Jacoby Myers. That's about it for the Patriots. So again, players on the hot seat for me. Think twice. Either sell them while you can or go ahead and buy low. Big Ben, Matt Ryan, Jalen Hurts, Jonathan Taylor, Tyson Williams, Nick Chubb, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and then Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry from the Patriots. And once again, that was our hot topic, hot seat, brought to you by Bomb Banana Hot Sauce. Bomb Banana Hot Sauce, banana-based, not banana-flavored. SeekTheSpice.com. Use the promo code TCK to get 10% off of your order. All right, y'all, let's dive into our waiver wire. So this is the top 4. Well, it's a week 4, I say top 10 waiver wire pickups. Now, I'm not going to go through every one of the Fantasy Pros ones because there's just a shit ton, right? They have so many names on here. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I will give you a number of each of their top positional, okay? And then I'll break down the ones that I'm spotlighting personally. At wide receiver, Fantasy Pros recommends in this order at wide receiver: Jacoby Myers of the Patriots, Emmanuel Sanders of the Buffalo Bills, Tim Patrick of the Broncos, Bryan Edwards of the Raiders, Mecole Hardman of the Chiefs, Marquez Callaway of the Saints, Hunter Renfrow of the Raiders, Terrace Marshall of the Panthers, Zach Pascal of the Colts, and Jalen Reagor of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the top 10 wide receivers that they recommend. The ones I recommend are Jacoby Myers of the Patriots, 14 targets in week 3. They no longer have James White out indefinitely with a hip injury. I'd be looking to spend about 10% of my fab on Jacoby Myers. Nobody this week, I want to make this clear, nobody this week, and I will get to Chuba Hubbard, nobody this week is worth a number 1 waiver claim. I'm going to throw that out there. Even if you're CMC manager, Chuba Hubbard is not worth a number 1 waiver claim, in my opinion. You can deal with your own leagues. In my opinion, nobody here is worth burning your number 1 waiver claim. If you have it, I would hold on to it. Let waivers pass. There's plenty of other options you can pick up for free. If you're rolling fab, I would go 10% for Jacoby Myers of the Patriots. Again, 14 targets, no James White. They're going to need him over the middle. Still yet to score a touchdown in his career, but that'll come. Next up, I have Emmanuel Sanders of the Bills. He's a deep threat for the Buffalo Bills. I mentioned last week he was getting targeted deep, but Josh Allen hadn't quite connected yet. He certainly did this last week. 4 touchdowns, right? Or 5 touchdowns, and he had Emmanuel Sanders for 2. I would look for 10 to 15% on Emmanuel Sanders as well if you're looking for a deep threat option, right? He's getting the targets, getting the receptions, yardage, and he's a touchdown threat as well. Look at Emmanuel Sanders. Next wide receiver I'd be looking at here is Tim Patrick, right? A couple weeks ago, and Bobby and I will wear this. I think the process was right, but it didn't work out, and that's on us. We told you to go get KJ Hamler, not Tim Patrick. And it was because KJ Hamler was taking the slot over Jerry Jeudy. And that was the case. But Tim Patrick happened to score the touchdown that week. KJ Hamler did not. And now KJ Hamler is out. He's out for the season. So Tim Patrick is that guy. He's the number 2 in Denver behind Cortland Sutton with Jeudy out and now KJ Hamler out. So until Jeudy comes back, Tim Patrick's that guy. Played well down the stretch last year, had a couple of touchdowns, had one again on Sunday. Go get Tim Patrick as well. Finally, at wide receiver, I'd be looking at Rashad Bateman. Has yet to play. Rookie for the Baltimore Ravens. He has not played yet, but he is eligible to come off of IR this week. Could be practicing. Even if he doesn't play this week, and I probably wouldn't start him this week anyway, I want to see what he's got and make sure he's healthy in this offense. But stash him on your bench and put him on your IR. If you can pick him up for free, put him on your IR. You'd be good to go in the next couple of weeks. I have him in as many leagues as I possibly can. He's on my IR everywhere. Let's go get Rashad Bateman. Hollywood had 3 crucial drops on Sunday. Hollywood Brown, 3 crucial drops. Okay, a couple of running backs here. Chuba Hubbard, again, Kenny Gainwell of the Eagles, Peyton Barber of the Raiders. And after that, I mean, it's kind of a crapshoot. I mean, Tony Jones, again, you have a bunch of handcuffs and stuff, so I'm not worried about that. So the top 3 running backs, let's just go right to Chuba Hubbard here. I want Chuba on my team. If I can get him on my team, I like that. Again, though, if I have the number 2, number 3 waiver claim, I would put that in for Chuba Hubbard. I'm not going to put the number 1 claim in, though, and the reason is, A, he's not going to beat Christian McCaffrey, okay? Mike Davis took the league by storm last year. He wasn't Christian McCaffrey. Nobody is Christian McCaffrey. He's going to be the backup once Christian comes back, and he will be back. Christian's not on the IR. That's important here. He can come back in 2 weeks if he's ready, right? Chuba Hubbard may only be a 1-week fill, maybe 2, maybe 3 at max, and then Christian comes back, I think, unless we hear otherwise. He's not going to be the bell cow like Christian is. They want a committee. Look for my man Royce Freeman, right, on the cheap, maybe even free once waivers claim, because he's also on that squad. Right? He might be the one to get for cheap. Everybody spent up for Elijah Mitchell, burned him. I mean, he was okay, but he wasn't what you wanted him to be for multiple weeks because he got hurt and then he was out. Okay, so everybody spent up for Trey Sermon. He accidentally scored a touchdown late in the game, but he wasn't what you wanted either. These handcuff running backs are not Alexander Madison, Tony Pollard, okay? Those guys are a different level of handcuffs. We've been saying that in fantasy for 5 years. Not every backup is going to be the starter. That's not how it goes. Madison's incredible. Pollard is incredible. They'd be starters on other teams. These other guys, Chuba Hubbard, right? Elijah Mitchell, 6th-round pick. Trey Sermon looks like he's running in sand, 3rd-round pick. Just not the guy. Be careful with Chuba Hubbard this week. All right, let me get to some quarterbacks here in Superflex leagues, and then I'll give you some DSTs. A couple quarterbacks. Sam Darnold, let's stick with the Panthers here. Over 300 passing yards in 2 of the last 3 games. He's got Dallas, Philadelphia, and Minnesota coming up. Sammy D looks excellent. According to Fantasy Pros, their quarterbacks are Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, and Taylor Heineke. If you really need somebody, Teddy Bridgewater, some of these really deep names, but the 2 I want to focus on here are Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, 20 fantasy points in 2 of the last 3 games. He's got the rushing upside, and he's minimizing turnovers this year. He has 3 fumbles, which is Daniel Jones, but no interceptions yet. And I don't want to jinx him, but no interceptions. He's playing a lot more careful football. He obviously has a rushing upside, 95 rushing yards 2 weeks ago. Should have been 100 plus, call back on a penalty. Pick up Daniel Jones, pick up Sam Darnold. I like them both. Sam Darnold in a 6-point per passing touchdown league, Daniel Jones in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. Both great for 2 QB and Superflex, but they're probably on your roster already. So go ahead and stream these guys if you need to. Let's get into some DSTs. I don't really have a tight end this week. Evan Ingram is available in about 70% of leagues. He's finding some work finally. Tyler Conklin had a big day from Minnesota. You can look at him. Dawson Knox caught a touchdown. Austin Hooper caught a touchdown. If you're streaming tight end, you're looking at matchups anyway. Now, DSTs. Look at the Saints going up against the Giants. I just praised Daniel Jones, but he's still Daniel Jones. The Saints defense is very good, and they could make a mess of Daniel Jones. So I like the Saints this week. I like the Titans at the Jets, right? Unfortunately, Zach Wilson has had a very tough time so far in his NFL career. I like the Titans versus the Jets. Likewise, Trevor Lawrence has not looked very good yet on consistency. Say what you want about Big Ben, but the Bengals just made a joke out of the Steelers offense. That should be good. Now they get the Jags, and I like the Bengals here a little bit as well. And then also look at the Washington football team. They may have been dropped because they haven't been top tier, and they were drafted as such. So go ahead and look at the Washington football team going up against the Falcons in Atlanta. I'm not as crazy about that one because we know there's going to be garbage time at the end, and Matt Ryan could run it up late and get a couple cheap touchdowns, and then your fantasy team gets blown away. But if Washington football team is available, you could do worse, I think. They still have the talent. They just haven't been playing great yet. So Saints DST, Tennessee DST, Bengals DST, and the football team if available as well. Some other players in order. This is who I would like. Jacoby Myers, Emmanuel Sanders, Chuba Hubbard. So Chuba Hubbard's number 3 for me. Jacoby Myers, Emmanuel Sanders, Chuba Hubbard. And then I'm going to look at Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones if I need a quarterback, and also Tim Patrick and Rashad Bateman, who you could pick up. Rashad Bateman, again, may not even be eligible this week, but pick him up a week early, eligible to return from IR. Also look for a guy like Jeff Wilson, who can return from IR in the next couple of weeks as well. You want to get ahead of the curve on that too. All right, we had the trade targets. We had players on the hot seat. We had the week 4 waiver ads. And that's going to do it for this episode here. Again, we usually do player trends in this segment as well. Bobby's going to do that for you on his own episode. So we'll drop that for you. Let Bobo go solo. Once again, if you have not, and you maybe missed the front part of the show here for streaming live, or if you're on the podcast side and you want to hear it again, please make sure you take a look at GoFundMe and the Support Taglier family. And throw a contribution to Mike Taglier's family, his wife Tabby, and his kids. Mike Taglier, better known as Tags from Fantasy Pros, passed away this last weekend after a battle with COVID-19. If you can, please be sure to contribute to Mike Taglier. Also, make sure to join us on Sunday morning. We've had such a great time the last 3 weeks with everybody. This Sunday was pretty rough because Mike had passed away and it was pretty somber, but we got through it and we had a great time. We, contributed a ton of money to help out, right? And hopefully we can do that moving forward. So if you'd like to get your start sit questions into us right before kickoff, join us every single Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific, and join us for Start Sit streaming right here on the Fantasy Focused YouTube page. Make sure to stream live on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that bell, let us know what we can do to improve for you. We would love to obviously make this show as best as we possibly can for you all so we can make it happen. So I appreciate everybody for hanging on here. It's a solo episode. We don't do many of these anymore, but I wanted to give my condolences and respects to Mike Taglier. So I did that in a previous episode. If you'd like to hear that, dial it back on the podcast or look it up on the YouTube there, a tribute to Tags. And I kind of share my personal story there and my relationship and inspiration from Tags. Incredible human being, incredible inspiration in the fantasy football space, and will be missed greatly. I appreciate you all. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're sitting at 3-1 or 3-0 and 2-1, even if you're at 1-2 or 0-3. Remember, it's just week 3. We got 17 this year. So stay with it. I appreciate everybody hanging out with me. Once again, my name is Sky Guasco. You can find me on Twitter at Sky Guasco, my handle, SKYGUASCO. You can find me on Instagram at fantasyfootball_TCK pod. You can find the Fantasy Focused crew on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Twitter, all at Fantasy Focused, fantasy_focused. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We appreciate the support there. And again, make sure to join us on Sunday for Start Sits. Want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Bomb Banana Hot Sauce. Once again, seekthespice.com, 10% off of your order with the promo code TCK. Banana-based hot sauce, not banana flavored. And I want to give a shout out, of course, to the Believe Podcast Network, Bet Online, and Play Action Pools. All of our sponsors that help us keep the show going. Much, much love to all of them. So I appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out. I know I'm a little down as far as my enthusiasm. It's been a pretty deep weekend for me with the passing of Mike, but we're moving on. He would want us to do that. That's what we're going to do. But we had to pay our tributes and respects. So shouts out to Mike Taglier and his family. He'll be deeply missed. I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Do what you can to do your absolute best. Be compassionate. Go after your passions. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. I'm your host, Sky Guasco. I'll catch you next time. I am out of here.